All right. Ladies and gentlemen, can we say gentlemen? Maybe. Theoretically, ladies and gentlemen. It is great to have you all here. I just hit mute on everybody just so that we have a nice clean background for the audio. Okay, welcome to the Daily Power Parsha. The objective here is to explore the daily section of the Torah portion and to draw from it beautiful insights and meaningful lessons. So today is, of course, Thursday, and we're going to explore the fifth reading of our Torah portion, which is Bamidbar. I am pulling it up right now on my computer. I'm going to share my screen with you. We have a few things to talk about, including some mysterious dots over letters in the Torah, which will hopefully fascinate you and open up some insights that are a little bit mysterious and usually perhaps not seen so deeply if you're not looking for it. Okay, here we go. Bamidbar Torah reading. We're pulling it up right now on the old Chabad.org website. Fifth reading for Thursday. Here we go. We have another reading of moderate length. It's not a short reading, but it's singularly focused. It's focused exclusively on the count of the Levites. Now, if you recall, I've mentioned the last few days, at the beginning of the book of Numbers, the beginning of our Torah portion, the Jewish people are counted. There's a census, and the census is of the 12 tribes, excluding the tribe of Levi, excluding the Levites. So all of the other tribes were counted, and Yosef was divided into Manasseh and Ephraim. That yields 12 tribes, minus the Levites. Why? Because the Levites were meant to be counted separately, because they were not of military status. They were not going to fight in the military. They had a different job. Their job was to serve in the temple, to serve in the tabernacle, in the Mishkan, to be God's servants, and also to serve on behalf and to pastor, if you will, the Jewish people. So, the Levites are counted separately. When are they counted? I'm glad you asked. Right here. Numbers chapter 3, verse 14. Take a look. I'm going to read this. The Lord, everyone can see my screen, right? Thumbs up if you can see my screen. Yes? Okay, good. The Lord spoke to Moses in the Sinai desert, saying, count the children of Levi. Count the children of Levi according to their father's house, according to their families. Count all males from the age of 1 month and upward. Okay, that's the commandment. So the Torah tells us Moses counted them according to God's word, just as he was commanded. And then the Torah continues to enumerate the count and how it was done. These were the names of Levi's sons: Gershon, Kahat, and Merari. So Levi, the original Levi, like the son of Jacob, the father of the Levite tribe. So Levi had 3 sons, Gershon, Kahat, and Merari, and those were the 3 major families of the tribe of Levi, and they were counted within the families. If you notice, in verse 15, it says, count the children of Levi according to their families. Don't just give me a count for the entire tribe. Give me a count divided by the families. Which families? These 3 families. Gershon, Kahat, and Merari. Make sense so far? Yes? Yes? Okay. The Torah continues. The names of the sons of Gershon were the following, and Kahat and Merari. And then it talks about the sum. 7,000, talks about 8,600, whatever, different counts. And then the Torah also mentioned in this reading what each family doing and just being in charge of the various vessels in the Mishkan, in the tabernacle, the ark, the table, the menorah, the altars, the holy utensils. And the Merari, that's the third family, Gershon, Kat, Merari. Merari, they were in charge of the hardware, the structure, the planks, the bars, the pillars, the sockets, the utensils, and all that stuff. So 3 families, 3 Levite families, and they divvied up, they divided the Mishkan tabernacle responsibilities. Let's go through it one more time. Outside, Gershon was in charge of the curtains, Kahat was in charge of the vessels, and Merari was in charge of the walls, essentially the walls and the beams. 3 families, 3 different tasks. Okay. And then, of course, in the context of explaining what each family did, they counted the families, and then we have a total count of Levites. Take a look, was exactly 22,000. Can't make this up. Exactly 22,000 Levites from 1 month and up. A few things that I want to talk about as we... Hold on one second. Yeah. A few things that I want to talk about as we... I gave you an overview of the reading. Now let's do a deep dive. Okay, number 1. You may... Oh, and first of all, before I continue, welcome to Max and Joy. Good to see you guys. Welcome, welcome. Okay, so I want to point this out. Do you recall, and unmute yourself if you do, please unmute yourself and answer the following question. From what age was the rest of the Jewish people counted from? From what age?
20 to 60.
20 to 60. What about the Levites? What about the Levites? When were they counted? From how old?
2 months, right?
No, well, you just said from the baby, 1 month.
1 month and upward. Excellent. 1 month and upward. This prompts the commentaries to ask the following question. What's up with that? Why is the rest of the nation counted only 20 to 60 and the Levites are counted 1 month and up? What do you think?
I think it's because the Levites are supposed to serve at the synagogue, and they're from... That's why you do the Pidyon Abin, get that baby back.
Okay, good. All right, good. So let me jump on that idea and develop it a little bit. Let's talk about the rest of the people. I mentioned this a few times already. The 20 to 60 was about the military. When is somebody of military age? When do they have the strength and the cognition, the psychological ability, emotional ability, physical ability to fight? To physically, go out to war. 20 to 60, that's what we say. 20 to 60 is the age of strength. Fine. Wonderful. But a Levite wasn't about fighting a war. A Levite was about, as you said, Joy, serving in the temple. It was about serving God. It was about study and spirituality. The Torah is telling us an incredible message, and that is, to go out and fight and battle and go to war and be a soldier, or even to go to work, that comes later. But when it comes to Judaism, when it comes to the spiritual, to the religious piece of it, that starts at the youngest of ages. You see, when it comes to education, sometimes we think that we can start, at any time. And the truth is, you could start at any time. But what better age to start than at the youngest of ages, 1 month? Now, why 1 month? In Jewish law, we say that when a child reaches the age of 1 month, they are considered to be a viable human being. In other words, the immediate dangers after childbirth, we say, are kind of, that hurdle is jumped over after 30 days, so there's a certain viability. The point is that here the Levites are counted at the earliest of ages, already from 1 month, which indicates that Judaism begins at the youngest of ages. They tell a story of a couple that came to a rabbi, and they said, well, our son or daughter, our child is, 4 years old, 5 years old. What age should we start Jewish education? And the rabbi said, what age should you start? You're already 4 or 5 years too late. In a nice way, obviously, not in a negative way. But we got to start right away. I remember when a few years ago, they had this thing for kids. Maybe you remember it, maybe you don't. It was called Baby Einstein. Do you guys remember that thing, Baby Einstein? Yeah? It was all about, play for your kids classical music, and that will make them, Mozart or something. It was like this whole thing of, getting the children to develop with music and these at the youngest of ages. They had Baby Einstein. They had Little Einsteins, which was like kind of a cartoon for, little older kids, but then they had Baby Einstein. Those for the youngest of ages, simple animation, simple, musical sounds, simple images, and it was all about getting the kids, getting the brains to develop. Now, I remember reading an article later that said, did it work? Did it not work? There was a debate about, the effectiveness of it. But the point still remains, whether it's Baby Einstein or something else. The point is that children are a sponge. Human beings are a sponge from the youngest of ages, and we need to get an education right away. So, in short, if I had to summarize this beautiful contrast, what it means is when it comes to fighting, that comes later. But when it comes to spiritual stuff, that comes right away. Right? The spiritual stuff, there's no need to wait. The other stuff, we don't want to put people into conflict and these sort of things until they're a little bit older. Hopefully we should never be in conflict. But that comes later. But the meaningful stuff, don't wait too long. That starts right away. But of course, it goes on. There's no expiration either. If you notice, with the Israelites, it's 20 to 60. When it comes to the Levites, it's 1 month and up. There's no expiration on it. So that means that education and spirituality and meaning and value can go on and is always applicable. Okay, that's one insight. The next insight I want to share with you is regarding the function of the various Levite families, which I mentioned before. So let's start with Gershon. What did Gershon... Actually, no, I want to start a little out of order. Gershon, Kahat, Merari, I'm going to go backwards. Okay? We're going to go backwards. What did Merari do? Merari was involved with the walls, the structure, the planks, the bars, pillars, sockets, more pillars, more sockets, more stakes, the ropes, the physical structure, the body, if you will, of the Mishkan, of the tabernacle. So what does this mean spiritually? This represents, before I get to the spiritual understanding, I just want to make sure that we're all on the same page here. When it says that they were in charge of it, what it means is when they were moving, when they were traveling, that tribe, or that family within the Levite tribe, that family, they were in charge of disassembling, transporting, reassembling, setting it up, breaking it down. That's what their job was. Lahavdil, to draw a massive distinction, but to give somewhat of a frame of reference, imagine, a famous singer or a famous band, the Rolling Stones. Anybody ever hear a Rolling Stone concert? Yes? Okay. Imagine the Rolling Stones are going on an international tour. Do you know how many people? It's not just a few musicians traveling. How many people travel with them? They have a whole crew. They have a massive crew going. And what are they doing? Setting up the stage, setting up the backdrops, breaking things down, lighting. I mean, it's a whole operation. Sound equipment. It's an incredible operation. Again, lahavdil. I don't want to draw the connection between God's temple and the Rolling Stones. That represents the dedication that we have to what God wants. The core framework of our relationship with God is symbolized by Merari. It's the walls surrounding, it's kind of like putting up the walls, saying this is what I'm committed to, this is what I'm committed to stay away from. And it's that rigid just dedication to my spiritual mission in life. That is the spiritual significance of Merari. Let's go back to Gershon, which was the first family mentioned. Gershon, as you remember, they were with the curtains and the tapestries. So the tent, the cover, the screen, all of these were like materials that were the fabrics. They were in the shmata business. The fabrics, the textiles, right? Textiles. So what does that mean for us? Textiles are fluid. Fabric and material, it flows, it drapes. That's a better word. It drapes, right? When people get dressed for fancy occasions, maybe they'll go to a tailor, maybe for a wedding, maybe for a simcha, bar mitzvah, whatever it is. Whether it's a suit or a dress, right? How does it drape? How does it drape, right? It's all about draping and how things flow and how the material, right? If somebody's wearing a gown, so how does it, poof out or not poof out, or like trains and no trains, whatever. So it's about fluidity. Textiles have a fluidity to it. It's not obviously a liquid, but it's got some sort of motion. It flows. So in our relationship with God, in our spiritual service, it's referring to the emotional connection that we have with God and with our higher purpose, right? It's the emotions that we bring. So the family of Merari, which is the structure, represents commitment. So number one, you need commitment. Number two, you need emotions, which are flowing, which ebb and flow, which are up and down. Emotions are kind of like, what is it, a seismograph? Is that when an earthquake goes? Is that what it's called, a seismograph? Something like that? Okay, yeah, it's like spikes, dips and spikes. It's ups and downs. Emotions are very, they're very fluid. They move. But you need emotions in any relationship, including our relationship with God. What is Kahat, the third family, or the middle one mentioned here? Kahat, they were all about carrying the stuff of the tabernacle, i.e. the ark, the table that had the showbread, the menorah candelabra, the altars, the other holy utensils, the stuff like the furniture, if you will, right? The furniture of the tabernacle. That's what Kahat family was in charge of. And so too in our relationship with God, we have to have the stuff that we use to make this world a better place. We have our homes, we have our cars, we have our possessions. That's the stuff of life that we use to make this world a bit of a better place, a bit of a holier place. So, to summarize, we need to be committed, we need to have an emotional connection, and then we need to use the stuff to make this world a better place. It's all about the actual transformation, and that is symbolized by Kahat. Okay, hope that makes sense. Final insight that I want to share with you today. And this is a doozy. I'm going to make the screen even bigger, if I may. Whoa, have you ever seen a screen this big? Okay, can you guys see that? Yeah? I need to highlight the Hebrew here. This is the final verse of today's reading, Lamates 39. This is giving the final tally of Levites, which I told you before was 22,000. Shnayim ve'esrim elef, or aleph, is 22,000. Exactly 22,000. A very round number. But who did the counting? The Torah tells us. I'm going to read it in Hebrew and I'll translate. Kol pikudei halavim. The total number of the count of Levites. Asher pakad Moshe v'Aaron al pi Hashem lemishpachosam. That Moses and Aaron counted according to God's command. In each family, counting each family, Kol Zachar ben Chodesh v'Mayla, all males 1 month and up, equaled Shnayim ve'esrim aleph 22,000. Okay, that's the translation. So who did the counting? Asher Pakad, who counted? Moshe v'Aaron, Moses and Aaron. Notice in the beginning, who was commanded to do the counting? God spoke to Moses. Vayedaber Hashem al Moshe. God spoke to Moses, and God said, Pakodet b'nei Levi, count the Levites. But who actually did the counting at the end of the day? It was not just Moshe, it was also Aaron, it was also Aaron. But that's not the unusual thing. That's maybe a little unusual, but here's the really unusual thing. Do you notice something on top of the word v'Aharon in the Hebrew? Do you notice something? Do you happen to notice dots over each of the letters? Little dots? Not the normal, cantillation notes for how to sing it or chant it. These are dots that are over each of the 5 letters of Aaron's name. Vav, Aleph, Hey, Resh, Nun, V'Aaron, which means and Aaron. So it's not, his name is Aharon. The Vav means and, because it's Moses and Aaron. But over all 5 letters of that word are dots. It's not just online, it's also in the Chumash. I'm holding up a copy of, again, the Gunnik edition, our go-to. I don't know if you can see this. I'm going to point out where it is. Right above my finger. I don't know if you can see that. V'Aharon has dots over it. Can you guys see that? Ish? No? Okay, take my word for it. But not only in the Chumash, in a Torah scroll as well. Open up a Torah scroll. The Torah scroll doesn't have any vowels. No periods, no commas, no question marks, no quotation marks, no punctuation. But what it does have over this word, V'Aaron, it has 5 dots. Why? The commentators explain that it was very unusual for Aaron to count. Not only was it unusual that he counted, in this case, Aaron himself was not counted amongst the 22,000. Although the entire tribe of Levi from 1 month up was counted, Aaron was not counted. The dots indicate an exception. Although he did the counting, he himself was not counted. That's what the commentaries explain. That's why it has the dot, to indicate that although The entire tribe was counted, and although he did the counting, he didn't count himself. Why not? So the commentators explain Aaron, I'll just use the Hebrew pronunciation of the name, Aaron wore a few different hats. Aaron served in a few different roles. On the one hand, he was a Kohen, and not just a Kohen, but the Kohen Gadol, the high priest, the highest priest in the land, the one who went into the Holy of Holies on Yom Kippur, the one who stood before the ark asking for atonement on that holy day, the one person once a year who was allowed to go in. So on the one hand, he had this holy role, but on the other hand, Aaron exemplified and lived a life that was but Aaron had another dynamic to him, that he was very down to earth. What does that mean? Aaron was famous for fostering peace between quarreling individuals. When people were fighting, when people were quarreling, Aaron stepped up and proactively diffused the tension. The Talmud and the Medrash speak extensively about Aaron's tactics. He used to go, let's say two people were fighting about something. He would go to one party and he said, you know what, I was speaking to the other guy, and the other guy feels really bad that you guys are in a fight. And he wants to reconcile, but he feels embarrassed. Are you open to reconciliation? He says, yeah, of course. What goes to the other guy and says, I spoke to the other guy and he said he really wants to reconcile with you, but he's embarrassed to speak to you. Are you open to a reconciliation? Yeah. Then he would facilitate a conversation, and that broke the ice. He basically got people to come to the table. So often people do not reconcile their differences because, who should take the first step? No one wants to be the one to take the first step because that's a sign of, vulnerability, weakness, humility, or who knows? It comes with a lot of baggage, right? So no one wants to be the first. So what Aaron did was he diffused it. He went to both of them. He said, the other guy wants to be first. Will you be second? Yeah. Will you be second? Yeah. Done. Great. So then you want to get along. Perfect. Aaron was doing this between people. He was doing this between couples. He was a marriage counselor. He did the same thing in marriage. He was the first known marriage counselor. In fact, Hillel, the great sage Hillel, many, many years later, had a saying, and it's recorded in Pirkei Avot, Ethics of Our Fathers. Hillel said, Havei mitalmidav shel Aharon, be of the disciples of Aaron. In other words, be like Aaron, be like Aaron. Ohev shalom, love peace. Virodev shalom, and chase after peace, pursue peace. Ohev et habriot, love God's creatures. Umekarvan Torah, and bring them close to the Torah. That is what Hillel says. Hillel says, be like Aaron. Love peace and pursue peace. It's one thing to love peace. Yeah, I love peace, but I'm not doing anything about it. Aaron did not sit back waiting for opportunities that came his way. He sought out conflict to heal it. Which tells us that Aaron, as high as he was, as lofty as he was, as a giant spiritually as he was so down to earth. He related to people. He got people, and he wanted to heal relationships. He was the greatest and the most pragmatic at the same time. Aaron could not fit into a box. Who is he? Is he like the high priest spiritual guru? Or is he like the accessible counselor guy? You couldn't put him in a box because he was both. That's why he wasn't counted amongst the Levites. Because counting, the other Levites, they had their role. They had, every family we just read had their role. They had their box that they filled. Aaron was so great and so relatable, he didn't fit into any of those boxes. He wasn't counted. He's got the dots over his name. It reminds us of a call to action that we have right now. You see, we're right now in the week before the holiday of Shavuot. And as I mentioned last night at our Torah studies class, Wednesday night Torah studies class, the preparation for Sinai, the first time around, right? 3,300 years ago. The preparation for Sinai was when the Jews camped at the foot of Mount Sinai, Ki ish echad b'lev echad, as one man with one heart, with total love and unity. No friction, no fighting, no conflict, but with love, getting along. We live in a fractured world, a world in which it's not always easy to get along. We cannot be okay with that. We have to be like Aaron, like Aaron, not only appreciating the value of love, peace, and harmony, but going out of our way, actively pursuing that and trying to create more of that in our world, in our families, in our communities, wherever we may be found. We shouldn't be okay with allowing conflict to brew, saying, well, listen, it's not my issue, it's not my fault, or whatever excuse we might have, I'm not getting involved. Our calling, as set, the role model was set, whatever, that type of behavior was taught to us, was exemplified by Aaron. We're meant to follow in his ways, according to Hillel, the great Hillel. And the message is, let's go out of our way to make our families and communities a little bit more peaceful. That is the ultimate preparation for Shavuot, the anniversary of the giving of the Torah. Torah requires peace as a prerequisite. So let's work on peace in this week leading up. Shavuot begins 1 week from tonight. So we have a week to create one more instance of peace in our lives or in the lives of those around us. That is a message here as well. If you look at the name Aharon, V'Aaron, so the Aleph Hey Resh, again, this is Hebrew insights from various sources, mystical sources, stands for Ava Rabba, which means great love. Again, Aaron is about love. Ahava, Aleph Hey Ahava, Rabba, Resh, and the final nun of his name, Aharon, has a long nun. Nun is the numerical value of 50. Shavuot, of course, comes after, as you may know, 50 days after Passover. We count 49 days and it's the 50th day. So the name Aaron, the dots above the name, it all speaks to the same truth. What was so great about Aaron? Why is he not counted? He's not counted because he doesn't fit into a box. Why? Because he's bigger than a box. Why? Because he's great, but also very much down to earth. As lofty as he is, he's not out of touch with human relationships. And he lived his life. He fought every day to heal the wounds, to heal fractures, to heal conflict, to heal, friction. And this is the ultimate preparation for the Torah at Mount Sinai that we get once again every year on Shavuot. So let me conclude today and summarize today's insights. Number one, let me make this smaller so that I can actually scroll through it in a semi-easy way. Okay, so number one, we spoke about counting the Levites from 1 month and up, and we said education and spirituality begins from the youngest of ages. Yeah, military stuff, earning a living, going to work, all that other stuff starts later. But our values start early and never expire. We talked about the three families of the Levites, Gershon, Kat, Merari, and what they each did, and we spoke about the significance of what that means in our lives. We have to have commitment, we have to have passion, and we have to create change in this world. And finally, the last point I mentioned was about the dots over Aaron's name and why he wasn't counted. So the message that we got, hopefully that came through, is the value, the importance of creating peace in our world, creating peace amongst ourselves and amongst others that may need that help. To go out of your way. Aaron said, I don't know if there's a better way to say this, a white lie. But it wasn't really a lie. He said the other guy wants to reconcile. This is before he spoke to the other guy. So on one hand, it was kind of a white lie, but on the other hand, it wasn't a lie at all. Because deep down, people do want to reconcile. Deep down, people do love the state of peace. It's just the ego that gets in the way. So Aaron said, I know the truth. That guy really wants to make up with you. And I know the truth. You really want to make up with him. So let's just live by your deepest truth. Don't live by your ego that might be bruised and offended and stand on ceremony and fold its arms and say, I'm not listening and I'm not going to talk to you. Let's live with our soul, and that's the best way to prepare for the holiday of Shavuot. All right, that's it for today. That's all I got for today. More tomorrow, our Friday Shabbat edition of Daily Parsha, same bat time, same bat channel, 12 p.m. Join us and help spread the word. All right, any questions, comments, messages?
No, it's beautiful.
Okay, good. Thanks for joining. Have a great day. Stay healthy.
Is it the only place in the Torah? Is it the only place in the Torah that there's dot like that?
No, there's a few places. It's very rare.
This kind of dot, I know this.
It's very rare. But there are a few times in Torah that you have it. Each time there's a message, a secret message that the commentaries explain. But yeah, this is one of the cases that has the dots. There are certain places in Torah where you have smaller letters, bigger letters, extra dots, or the dots over the letters. Very few anomalies. So this is one of them. We got one in our reading today. Lucky. It's an indication to look deeper. Good. All right. Great to see you, Ray. Have a great one, Sandrine.
At one point.
Oh yeah, sure.
Thanks.
Ray, say it again. Sorry. I meant Ray.
At one point in the Torah, doesn't the shin have like a crown? Doesn't the shin have a crown over it in the Torah somewhere?
Yes. Many of the letters actually have crowns. When the scribe writes the letter, there's certain formula for which letters get the crowns, but there's certain crowns on the letters, yes. And it says, by the way, I think it was Rabbi Akiva, or one of the rabbis, used to interpret the crowns of the letters and their meaning as well. So you're right. There's another element, a secret element, that's kind of like a hook, or tells you look deeper. There's something else here. Yeah, you're right. Good.
So
all right.
Is that what the crowns do?
That's what the
crowns do.
Yes.
The crowns let you know to look deeper.
Yes.
It's a little hint.
Exactly. These are little hooks, little hints, little deviations from the norm that tell you, look inside. There's something deeper there. And there are books, there are commentaries that interpret these things and decipher them. A few different ones. It's always fascinating. Yeah.
Cool.
All right. Good.
Thank you, Rabbi.
Stephanie, great to see you. Ray, great to see you. Sandrine, great to see you.
Thank you too.
All have a wonderful day.
See you.
We'll see you guys soon. Tanya tonight, 8 p.m. Hope you can join. All right. Think different. We'll see you then. All right. Bye.